Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the Thursday Night Hockey Show. I'm Dave Valente, joined this week by Travis, the guy who hates Tom Wilson or Aurednik. How you doing, brother?
It is true. The rumors you have heard, I do in fact hate Tom Wilson. I try to whisper it at least twice a show to see if anybody notices. Hi, Dave.
I notice. I'm here for you. So how you doing, brother?
Good, man. Got some
Right
new ink today.
Yeah.
Went to my
Show
job.
everyone your ink as much as you can.
Yeah, it's hard for me to contort my arm. No. Anyway, there's a snake. There's a snake on my arm.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's the head, and it wraps back around to an angle that I cannot show you. If anybody sees me in person, just look at my arm. It's pretty simple. Okay. Yeah, it's a pretty good day.
Cool.
It's a good day for hockey. Some good games on tonight.
Yeah, there are plenty of good games on tonight. In fact, let me...
Starting at 7, we've got one of my favorite rivalries, the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. It's not a question on who will win. It's more a question on how many fights will there be.
Yep. Then the second game of the evening is the Hurricanes and the Maple Leafs. I know you're watching it. I'm watching it too. So
yeah, it's probably going to be the game of the night right there.
Yeah, at least on the East Coast side of it. Then we got the Stars and Canadians. All these games are at 7:00 tonight, so they're starting here in a moment.
Which the Stars right now have impressed me beyond belief. The Stars,
except for the Toronto game.
Yeah, the Stars are pulling it out like crazy good.
Yeah. Predators are in Philly to host the Flyers. This is Claude Giroux's 1,000th game, and probably his last game with Flyers.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yep. Columbus Travel is hosting the Capitals at 7:00. That's the end of the early slate of games. Later on tonight, we've got the Blues and Penguins, which should be
my number 2 game, actually.
Yeah, it should be a pretty good tilt. Depends on who's in net, and we'll get into that in a little bit because Blues have some questions in net now. My Sabres are in Edmonton to take on the Oilers. The Red Wings are in Vancouver to take on the Canucks. In fact, all the Pacific teams are home hosting games. I'm sorry, the Sharks are on the road technically. It's not that far. But Sharks are at the Kings. And then the Panthers, this should be a good game, depending on which Golden Knights team shows up. Panthers at Golden Knights. Or we're going to find out how bad the Golden Knights are getting.
Yeah, and tonight should really be a good indicator for the Golden Knights on the upcoming trade deadline of whether or not anybody still actually has any cares there. Even if you don't see top-tier performances, I think that you're going to see a lot of I don't feel like playing or I'm actually going to show up, and that'll probably determine on who gets dealt.
Sure. But
I feel like a lot of those decisions on dealing people out, especially if there's interest, falls to the last game played before the deadline.
Sure. I get that. I mean, I like with Vegas though. I mean, this has been going on a little bit, and I think I think they took what Tampa did. Was last season with Kucherov. Kucherov being injured the entire season. Long-term injury. Yeah, comes back. After game 82. And play well. No, it wasn't 82 games. 56 games, and plays in the playoffs and does not miss a beat. Tampa, of course, wins the title. With acquiring Jack Eichel, they knew they had some lead time heading up until when he had a surgery and getting him healthy enough to play. Mark Stone had been nursing some nagging injuries all season, so he's out of the lineup now. Max Pacioretty's been out of the lineup now. Robin Lehter's out of the lineup. Word out of Vegas today was that Leonard might miss the rest of the regular season. And Pacioretty's not been real healthy this season. So it's kind of the Jack Eichel show, and he's got to be thinking, am I cursed? Is the curse with me?
Yeah, actually, that would make a lot of sense, right?
Well,
like I said before, man, if Taylor Hall can be the reason you win the draft lottery over and over again, Jack Eichel can be the reason your team sucks.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Eichel's been on a draft lottery winning team a couple times now. So, um, you know, uh, ever since he's been there, the Golden Knights have been struggling. I mean, not that he's been all that bad, and it's the same thing that happened in Buffalo. He was never bad in Buffalo. It was just that the team around him has just collapsed. They're 3-7 over the last 10, which I think coincides with how long he's been back. Lost all 5 games on a road trip, including that emotional night in Buffalo last week, which was absolutely awesome. Um, but yeah, I can't I don't know what's going on with Vegas. Like you're right, tonight is going to tell Vegas where they need to really invest. Are they gonna bring in a goaltender? You know, Robin Leonard is a good goaltender, but he's had injury issues throughout his career. Um, and the word on Robin Leonard is, if you can get him moving side to side, he's vulnerable because he's such a big goaltender. It's hard to beat him up top. Or if he gets out on you, it's very hard to beat him. But the thing is to get him moving side to side. It was kind of the whole thing with Ray Emery back in the day. Get him moving side to side, he opens up. But he's also been very vulnerable to hip injuries, groin injuries, and things like that. You know, I think perhaps the league has really kind of figured out Robin Leonard, and
Yeah,
Vegas is very much regretting the fact that they dumped Marc-Andre Fleury in the offseason at this point.
I mean, you can't have a goaltender that has a cheat code, right? That's kind of the issue they're running into here. Is as long as there is a absolute for sure known weakness with this guy, so far nobody's failed to exploit it. So I think that's how you really get the depth of the situation. It'd be different if it was like, this is the easiest way to get in on him, but instead it's like, oh, this is a guaranteed way to get in on him, which is definitely an issue. I mean, it's just, that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
So do we see Leonard get dealt? Does Leonard end up just being a B-side to whoever they can bring in on top? And the real question is Vegas going to point more towards finishing out the season with Leonard as the number one guy and, try to trade off something else and pull in a prospective goaltender here, somebody that's a little bit younger? The problem right now is there's such a great divide between old goaltenders that are tried and proven, and that's going to be your absolute playoff guys. Those are the playoff pieces. And then you have the new wave of goaltenders, which a lot of them are really good. Arizona's got one of the best up and coming goaltenders in the league, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
is Vegas going to make an attempt to get somebody for this playoff run, or are they going to just hold out, let Leonard stay in net for the rest of the season, put somebody else in next season, and just kind of roll with it?
Yeah. Oh, Toronto's wearing their St. Pat's uniforms.
They are. That's going to come
Christmas on it's like Christmas on the TV.
Yeah, red and green.
This should have been the game that the Hurricanes wore the Whalers jersey. That would have been cool.
That would have been confusing.
It would have been confusing, but it would have been cool. But
I think that this would have been the perfect Winter Classic game this year.
But Carolina is getting a outdoor game next season, so
and it's going to be at NC State, which is super, super exciting.
Yeah, it's like right across the parking lot from the PNC, right?
It literally is. So whenever you walk out of PNC, the place that you wait in line for an Uber is at NC State's front door.
Yeah.
So it's like you walk out of PNC, you walk 200 yards, and you are standing in the football field. That's how close they are. So I definitely will be trying my absolute hardest to get a ticket for this one. Carolina, of course, is my home team as it goes since I'm so far from Arizona, which another fun one to bring up. We thought that we had the situation in Arizona solved. It was pretty cut and dry that we'd be moving into the Mountain Center Arena, I think is what it's going to be named now.
The Arizona State facility.
Yeah, the new Arizona State facility. I think they're calling it the Mountain Center or Mountain Bank Center or something.
Yeah, some
insert sponsor name for arena here, but it might not happen still. It looks like it still has to go to another vote. The league also is making a little bit of racket. There's several teams that are kind of close to the area or have a high population of fans in the area that are super against this because it's not enough room for us and them. Which
where
okay, I kind of get it, but at the same time, like,
we're not building
let,
an arena for your fans.
well, yeah, not just that, but like, you can dislocate the team for a few years and completely close it off, raffle off tickets to who gets what players. Um, that's awesome. Or you could just shut up for 2 seasons, let us figure our thing out, and then you will have somewhere for your fans to go. It's going to be one or the other. Hopefully this is about resolved. I mean, I have a pretty good feeling right now that we're going to end up playing there regardless. I don't think as long as Bettman is sitting at the head of the table, we're going to have any issues with staying in Arizona.
Yeah.
Even though I was pretty shaky about it before, but even just whenever they started to entertain the idea that this was a possibility, as soon as I saw the league was up for it, I was like, okay, we're probably going to be there. So,
Yeah.
unless something just jumps out of the blue and we pull a Oakland Raiders and
Peace
get
out.
relocated in 24 hours,
Or you back in the day when I was a kid, the Baltimore Colts piecing out and going to Indianapolis in the middle of the night.
Yeah. So, the Atlanta Flames.
Yeah,
The
that was a
original.
little more known. I mean, that was a little more known because
I think they had a week's notice.
the Thrashers was a surprise because it was like, yeah, there's the league is looking at selling the team and getting it out from under the Octave cluster, that 8-member ownership group that had it there. Atlanta Spirit, I think was what they were called. Um, and then it was like, oh well, a team from or a group from True North in Winnipeg, Canada wants to bring a team to Canada, bring the 7th team back to Canada, and it was like, I mean, there was really just no time to really see, try and save the Thrashers. It was already done. It was like between the end of the season and like 2 weeks later, it was already decided. So, um, but yeah, the original Flames, there was knowledge because the owner was so heavily into real estate, and that was during the stagflation era. So nobody was buying houses at that point, and so he had to sell his team to kind of save his financial well being. So, well, speaking of the Coyotes, man, what is up with your Coyotes?
I don't know, but I wish they'd stop.
Well, I mean,
I
as
don't want
well as
hope.
they've been
I
playing,
am not happy. No.
yeah, as well as
Tank.
they've been playing, they're only 4 points up on Montreal. Montreal
And
now drives the tank.
they just need to do one thing right. And so far it hasn't been play hockey. So let's tank hockey right. Okay.
Well, they're
This is
playing
not the
really
time
well
of year
now.
to they look fantastic. This is not the time of year to do that. We're already out of the playoffs. Stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. It's cool. I mean, show us next year. You
Well,
know,
see, I think the issue is that people were so that like for Buffalo, we've been winning 4 out of the last 6. We're nobody's mad about it because I think we're not in the position where we're just like, oh, we got to have the first overall pick. We're in a position where we've got some young guys in the lineup. Let's see how they're developing and see some progress this season. And it'll be the same next year. We'll have young guys in the lineup. Let's see how they progress. Um, but yeah, with Arizona, you know that they're in that race for the first overall pick,
oh for
and
sure.
it may not last because they got the trade deadline coming up. They had a scare with Jacob Chikrin. He did hurt his ankle in the Toronto. Was it the Toronto game or the Montreal game? But he's only going to be out maybe 2 weeks. So there's still a chance that they can trade him. There's still teams that want him. So you're going to get rid of Chikrin. It could be like when Buffalo was doing their tank for Eichel and McDavid, and anybody with any competence on the ice at all was traded off at the trade deadline. I mean, we acquired we acquired a goalie and dealt him off in like 12 hours. So like, oh yeah, he's gonna play. No, we don't need him. So
I
perhaps
think that
that's
if there's anybody that we need to not get rid of, it's probably Chikrin. I feel like that would be a good building block for us to work around. Just
yeah.
because he's been with Arizona for so long, he's always been a consistent player, which I can really appreciate. That's something that Arizona hasn't had a lot of, is consistency. So we lost the guys that like I loved. Michael Grabner was a huge one. Derek Stepan, whenever he was there, I love that guy. Lawson Krause, that's like one of my absolute favorites. I can appreciate the OEL trade. I think that was a fantastic idea because OEL was so played out it wasn't funny. I say with 3 of his jerseys hanging behind me. But, there's certain things that you should have. Obviously, Kessel's not staying in Arizona. The real question right now is, are we going to get something out of him at all? Is there any potential for us to trade Kessel for something of any value? Honestly, I think like a second-round pick would be fantastic. Just because there's an absolute guarantee he is not staying in Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, Kessel should draw something. I mean, we'll go over the trades for a minute, but some of the stuff that teams have been getting for players, and they got to remember, Kessel's still going to be a good second line, maybe third line depth scoring option for a team that wants to go deep in the playoffs.
Well, especially if they had a first line worthy second line center, somebody that Kessel could play with and keep up with. It was worth his weight.
Yeah.
I think that he'd do a lot better. But you have to remember, man, Kessel came up with some fantastic centers. Love him or hate him, whenever he was playing with Malkin.
Yeah.
I'm not a Malkin fan, but you look at the guy's stat sheet, you can't deny the fact that even just in assists to Kessel, Kessel is not a one-man show. He has to have somebody that's better than him playing center for him to actually put up a number. So, if you have that missing piece, yeah, he's great. I feel like Colorado with Burakovsky could have used him, but it's just
I don't know how they make that work because they've already been active in the trade front so far this year.
They have, and they gave the Wild what I'm already calling the trade of the century.
You think Jost is going to be that big for the Wild?
Yes.
All right.
Jost has been looking for a place to fall where he could actually perform to par for what he's worth.
Yeah.
And I think that Minnesota is going to be the spot. I think that Jost is going to turn into one of the top 10 centers in the league off this trade.
Wow. Well, I mean, so where does he slot in? Do you think he's a second line guy right now?
I think he's going to continue to be a second line guy. But, there's a lot to be said for second line guys. Mark Messier was Gretzky's second line guy. So,
oh yeah, I mean, you've got to have if you have a first line and you don't have a second line, the first line is just going to get shut down. You've got to have a good, competent second line to be a playoff team in this league.
Yeah, I would love to see him, playing second fiddle for Kirill. That's awesome to me.
The legend of Eric Shelgren is growing in Toronto. The shots right now are 7-1 Carolina. It's still 0-0 about halfway through the first period.
Yeah, and Toronto's been shut down every time that they go into Carolina's offense or into Carolina's zone at all. So I don't know if that one shot was actually even a shot. I think that it was just like
just dumping
general direction
on goal. they dumped it in and went on goal. We'll give one.
I'm watching this on TSN, so I'm pretty sure they can't leave the numbers at 0 unless it's a score. They have to pump the tires a little bit.
Yeah, this is I get a feeling that the young goaltender is going to feel like a pinata after this game. All right, so let's talk about some of these trades. So we got the Jost trade. So Tyson Jost was traded from Colorado to to Minnesota in exchange for Nico Sturm, the son of Marco Sturm, longtime German NHLer, and yeah, both guys have been kind of I wouldn't say completely underperforming, but not they haven't progressed their career to the point that we would expect of them. Jost is you're right. Jost was in a situation in Colorado where he was behind so many people that was hard to stand out. And I think you're right that he's going to get into Minnesota and be able to put more of a stamp on his career.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're going to get to see what he actually is,
yeah,
and I'm really excited about that.
and that's not all for Colorado. They moved. This was what Tuesday. Um, they moved or they got Josh Manson from Anaheim, who is kind of throw. I guess they've kind of thrown in the towel in the season. They've moved him to Colorado in exchange for Drew Hellison, a defensive prospect and a second round draft pick. It's a pretty good haul for. I mean, Manson's a good, serviceable stay at home defenseman,
Well,
and
and I think that it's going to be extremely, extremely advantageous for Colorado to have another tough guy that doesn't end up getting suspended every time he gets in a fight, like Kadri.
yeah,
Um, Manson is one of the toughest shutdown checkers in the
yeah.
league. If you get checked by Manson, you're probably going out for at least the rest of the period. So,
I mean,
you know,
it's
the
good to have
guy's a monster.
yeah, he is. It's good to have a tough guy that knows how to hit and not take advantage. And like you said with Kadri, not getting suspended, um, and provide that protection for those top line players. Because if somebody tries to take liberties with Landeskog or Rantanen or even Cale McCarr, if they're on the ice together. I'm not sure who he's going to be playing with, but Cale McCarr gets in trouble. There's Josh Manson putting the world of hurt on somebody.
Well, and I feel like the defenseman tough guy is probably the most underrated role in hockey.
Yeah,
The potential for a stay at home defenseman as far as the physicality goes, you don't really get it. Like you don't get to see it as much these days. Now, whenever it was, the 1-4-1, that was the deal. Like Scott Stevens, you know, those really dirty my zone checks.
yeah.
Um,
You just
the nice thing about
eliminate
Manson is
all
he
for
knows how to get in front of people on their way in.
yeah,
And, not only does that allow him to draw penalties, because as soon as the head goes down, he's in front of him and then he's down. We saw that all the time out of him in Anaheim. It was the dirtiest clean plays you could ever ask for.
yep.
But, the really exciting thing is he can just play pile on for anybody coming in and do a lot more damage to a moving target than he's going to do to himself.
Oh, nice little save there by Sjogren.
Oh,
Um,
we got a scuffle.
nice. Oh yeah, there was a tackle there. Takanyemi got tackled. How's that not a penalty?
It's Toronto.
Yeah, that's true. Um, let's see. Starting today, we had Frankie Knuckles Vetrano dealt from Florida to the Rangers in exchange for a conditional fourth. It's either the lowest of the Rangers or Minnesota Wild fourth round draft picks this year. Good move for the Rangers. I like for Toronto. He's kind of that depth scoring. We'll get you some good goals on the third and fourth lines as you need them. Um, but it was just kind of clear there's not enough roster spots for the All Star team they're building in Florida.
Yeah, and I think that the Vetrano trade is, a pretty obvious. They definitely miss Brendan Lemieux. They need that physicality back, and I think that this is kind of a discount version of trying to get it. So hopefully he finds a good home there. Like you said, third or fourth line, I think that he could be just a fantastic shutdown guy. They throw him on the fourth, and then he catches first line change, and then all of a sudden, whoever the top center for the next team is out, and you get 5 minutes of free play.
There you
No, I feel like he's a really underrated tough guy.
go. That was to set the stage for Ben Sharat, kind of the second biggest defensive name to go in this trade deadline. He is going from the Canadiens to Florida, the rich getting richer, in exchange for a 23 first round draft pick and a forward prospect Tice Milanic. Never heard of the guy before, so. But getting a first for Ben Sherratt for a rental defenseman, even though it's next year because Buffalo has their pick this year. But remember, Florida is so stacked. You're banking on this pick probably being like 30, 31, 32. So, like this year, I'm really rooting for Vegas to fall down because we got their first round draft pick. If Vegas, it's top 10 protected. So if Vegas completely craps the bed and they're finished like seventh worst in the league, then that screws us because they can switch the pick to next year's first round pick. But which actually complicates things for Vegas, and I'll get into that in a moment. But if they finish like 11th through 16th, then Buffalo gets their pick. It's a lottery pick, technically, and we'll see what happens with that. But that'll be interesting. Oh, did we have one? Oh, Toronto's got 2 shots now.
Carolina's on the power play. Another 17 seconds.
Yeah. But for how that complicates the things for Vegas is that Vegas, they can't move their first round pick next year because it is tied as a condition to another pick. So they can't move a first round pick to get somebody into their lineup. They're going to have to, first off, they have to move salary because they're still up against it with Eichel on the roster now. I don't even know how Vegas brings anyone in to improve that roster unless they deal with somebody like a Riley Smith out of there.
Yeah, which I would hate to see. That's
yeah. You need a Riley Smith in your lineup.
That's going to be a hard call for Vegas. I can almost guarantee you right now they're missing Alex Took, though.
Yeah. Thanks. Preach.
I would be missing him. I'd be missing him pretty bad right now.
Yeah, that was the great thing about the Buffalo Vegas game last week. First goal was scored by Peyton Krebs, and then the empty net goal was scored by Alex Tuck, and Jack Eichel got shut out. Jack Eichel did take a swipe at the fans. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
He was like, that's the loudest they've been in 7 years. A little bit of hyperbole because, we did fill the arena for his first practice. Like there was 18,000 people in the arena for his first practice. Not going to say, but hey, you got booed for 3 hours and you lost the game and your team is struggling. It may miss the playoffs just like you did in Buffalo. So I don't know if he can ask for a trade again.
I'm starting to feel like he's going to turn out to be the next Nolan Patrick.
Ooh. Yeah, but he's had more success.
He has, but the situation can be.
And Nolan Patrick, Nolan Patrick's. The guy's on the Eric Lindros train.
Yeah,
yeah. That's the problem with Nolan is that he just can't stay healthy long enough to really get his feet underneath him in the NHL. And I think Philly sold Vegas a bill of goods with Nolan Patrick. But I feel bad for the kid because he just every time he gets on the ice, somebody's like running him and throwing him into the boards and giving him another concussion. So, because the kid was talented, like coming out.
There's a reason he was a first rounder.
Yeah, it was the top first rounder. Second overall pick. There's a reason why he was that high. He had phenomenal talent, but once you start having concussions, man, you really protect yourself. But Let's see. So Sharat went to the Florida Panthers. Man, I tell you what, that lineup is just scary right now. I mean, you're uh, lines 1 through 4, all three defense pairings. Uh, yeah, maybe your weakest link is your goaltending.
which is
But I mean,
still top 5 in the league.
yeah, good luck getting back to the goaltender at this point. And this is a team that I think could still score in the playoffs. Like I know that I tend not to trust teams that are scoring heavy, like the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're such a great scoring team, but when you get to the playoffs, you lose out because teams are playing much more defensive, and the rest put their whistles away.
Yeah, but right now, I mean, even if Florida scores half as much in the playoffs, they'll be scoring twice as much as anybody else.
Exactly. I
So
mean,
it's like, how do you lose here? It's just keep doing what you're doing, and if you do it half as well, you're still gonna win a cup.
Yeah.
I think that it's pretty well guaranteed the cup's going to stay in Florida this year. Which team? It's debatable. You know how playoff hockey is for Tampa, but as far as I can tell, I mean, between Florida and Tampa, it is going to take an absolute monster to crash this ambulance.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here for I don't think we're going to get it in the first round, but if whenever we get the Florida versus Tampa series, I think it's just honestly it feels like it's going to be the Stanley Cup there, really. I mean, unless they beat the hell out of each other and injure the crowd, it's more of a Pyrrhic victory for whoever emerges from that round. Um, you know, I I think that really is kind of the Stanley Cup there. It's Florida versus Tampa, and it's going to be either first round, unlikely, or second round, and you know everyone else is fighting to lose to Tampa or Florida.
Yeah, which that's going to be fun.
I mean, Colorado's going to have a say in it. I still don't trust Colorado's goaltending, and they still haven't done enough to address it. Um, and I still think they may be your way. The big thing for Colorado is can they get past that second round? If they can get into the conference finals, okay, now you're seeing progress. But if they get knocked out first or second round, there's a good chance you could see the coach getting axed.
Hot take:
Yo,
Minnesota, Western Conference champion.
I mean, they can make some noise.
It's coming, dude. The legacy that will be the Minnesota Wild at this point is on its way. I am stoked to see this team come up. They're making wise trades. I really think that as soon as you have 2 or 3 more good connections between either line pairings for defensemen or, just one left, one center, or one right, one center, it's not going to take a lot for a dynamic duo to show up out of this place.
Well,
like the Draisaitl McDavid situation. Kaprizov's just got to find one guy that he connects with, and you're going to see something insane come out of Minnesota.
sure.
Uber confident.
I will agree with you if they're able to talk Marc-Andre Fleury into trading over there. That's been the big rumor today is that Minnesota was granted the ability to talk to Marc-Andre Fleury to see if they can get some kind of deal worked out to bring him over. So, that's and let's say Vegas makes the playoffs and somehow gets to play Minnesota. How much do you think Marc-Andre Fleury will relish the fact that he's playing? Could take out the Vegas Golden Knights if Vegas even makes the playoffs at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
oh my goodness, Toronto
has 3 shots,
4 shots, and they just took the lead.
Oh, did they?
Yep.
All right, I'm a few seconds behind, so I'm going to get this one.
Oh, it was a stinker. Yeah, I think it's Mikheyev. Yeah.
Yeah, that's who it was.
Yeah, I would just That
was pretty nasty. That was a nice back pass, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good play. It was just that, I wouldn't feel good about that goal on the 4th shot of the game. especially when you got 12. Although it looks like we're getting a little bit of pushback from the Leafs now.
I don't know. I mean, it was definitely a lucky bounce in, but
Yeah, but if you've been pounding the rubber on a goaltender that's starting to get a little buzz about him, and then you let in a fluke goal like that on fourth or fifth shot, that's kind of deflating, and we'll see how Carolina responds and how Toronto responds to the little bit of momentum they've got now. Let's see. Last trade we can talk about is Cali Yarncroft. He goes from Seattle to Calgary for a 22 second, a 23 third, and a 24 seventh. Here's my question. Why would you ever ask for a seventh round draft pick?
something free. Throw it in.
Yeah, yes.
Because now Seattle is just scrapping for anything that resembles the ability to build a team since they completely flunked out on the draft. I mean, this is probably the best deal, draft included, entry draft and all. This is probably the best deal that Seattle's ever made, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's really not that good of a deal, which should tell you something about how poorly they performed beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, Cali Yarncroft was a serviceable player with the Preds. Yeah, probably top 4 or 5 players on the team.
But right now, he should be so low down on the list. This trade shouldn't have even made the news. It's just the fact that it's
he shouldn't have got this
trade
for it. They shouldn't have got. I mean, the fact that he is one of the better players on a very moribund team it shows that situations can play into your favor for Cali Yarncroft to pull a second, a third. Now, I mean, yes, the third and the fourth are future picks, but Seattle boned the expansion draft. They didn't do all that hot in the free agency.
All that hot, they didn't do anything.
No, they did. I mean, they got what's his face from the goaltender from Colorado. They got
and how far's that got him?
Oh well, I mean, look at what's in front of him. That's a guy who I'd be dealing off. That there are teams with enough questions in goaltending. You should be able to get a first out of
Grubauer.
Grubauer, yeah, you should be able to get a first out of him.
God, Seattle was just such a trash can.
And I think it's unfair because Seattle is pretty much the form for expansion. Everyone got spoiled with seeing Vegas just pulling out. I mean, just stealing players in that expansion draft. And there were players that Seattle could have stole to make a really good team. They just didn't. They had some kind of weird philosophy about what they were doing, and it didn't work.
No, it blew up terribly.
Yeah. Although they're only 2 points out of the tank, man. They could be driving the tank soon.
It's our tank. Stay away from our tank.
Well, they're actually behind you now.
Yeah, I'm just hoping.
Depending on perspective, they're 2 points in front of you.
Hoping somebody throws a Molotov out and just takes out the competition for us here.
Well, that should be your GM dealing off all your players. Let's see. So instead of a Thursday night show next week, we are going to get together on Monday night to go over the trade deadline. Are you ready for some hockey? A Monday night party. So yeah, Monday night, 7:00. We're going to go over the trade deadline. Is at Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, and we'll go over winners and losers, who got moved, winners and losers from both the player perspective and the team perspective. So
there will be a lot of both. There's already a lot of both.
Yeah, Colorado right now Colorado and Florida have really kind of put their stakes in the ground on trade deadline to really improve teams that really don't need a whole lot. So,
and then you've got teams like Carolina that have no reason to move anybody at all.
Yeah, I mean, who do you move out of that team, and who are you going to go after? I mean,
you just don't. You got a good thing going. Let's just keep it.
Yeah. So several big name free agents that are, or two free agents to be that are on the market. Ricard Raquel from Anaheim, also from Anaheim, Hampus Lindholm. Um, I believe both of those will be moved by the trade deadline. Uh, on your team, the with aforementioned Chikrin and Phil Kessel, I'm sure there's a couple more that they're probably looking at. Maybe Lad. I don't know. I mean, that's uh,
At this point,
anybody.
nobody's safe. That's just what I've come up with. It's
Anybody that's scoring right now, they're going to trade them off because you got to stop that. Um, they might trade Vamelka to somebody like a junior hockey team in Mexico City. I don't know what just get
the one guy we need
people that are doing good right now.
one person that we need to keep on that team, and I am sure he will probably get dealt off to somebody for something stupid. Like Vimelka for 2 second-round draft picks and a bucket of popcorn.
Yeah,
A
7th round pick.
Yeah, and a 7th-round pick. I guess since you're just handing them out,
Chicago.
I'll take a freebie. You just have to send in a mail-in rebate.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and then the last one, the big one that we talked about earlier, Claude Giroux going to someone. Now, there's rumors that he might go to Florida. I have no idea how Florida is doing this in the cap world, like $80 million cap, and the team that they've got on the ice right now, like, how is that not $80 million on the cap?
I think that Florida got lucky and fell into a lot of very team-friendly deals. Just because
Bob Ross and $10 million. I mean, that's 1/8
except for playoff Bob.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of your forwards are signing really low because they are positive right now that Florida can guarantee them a cup. This is kind of like also last year that we saw Toronto pick up everybody that was worth anything at all. Yeah, I think that we're seeing that again, except it's in Florida this time and it actually has potential.
Yep. Plus, of course, we talked about this on an earlier show. Florida being a no tax income tax state, your dollar
definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah, your contract dollar goes a lot further in Florida than it does in Toronto, New York, LA. So,
if you were in Toronto and you were on a $5 million contract, you're going to pay off what, $2 million in taxes?
Oh, at least probably
like minimum,
probably closer to 50. Yeah, 50%. Yeah.
So why would you not sign with Florida?
I mean, you still have federal taxes, but you don't have state taxes.
Plus, dude, you get to live in Miami.
Yeah, you
like
golf all year round. The one thing you got to worry about is getting a sunburn before a game. I mean, it's
the best case scenario for most guys because you're stupid rich,
and there's golf
basically not paying taxes. You have literally dozens of PGA quality golf courses around you if you even care. But
and like every
shorts every day of the year.
Yeah, and every hockey player loves golf. I don't know why. I mean, it's kind of similar motions, I guess. But every hockey player loves golf.
And every hockey player is destined to be a snowbird later.
Yeah.
Except for the few diehards from Boston.
And Buffalo's got a good group that stays around too.
Yeah, but other than that, dude,
and I still think they're the snowbirds.
Yeah, Florida's probably the best case scenario for pretty much anybody in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they win.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Florida is so attractive. Anybody getting traded there is hitting the lottery, whether you're going to Tampa or whether you're going to Florida, to Miami. Because I'm not going to say you're guaranteed a deep playoff run because you're going to have to play the other team from the other side of the state, either the first or second round, and that's going to be the death match for the cup. But you're going to be successful in the regular season. You're going to look good, and eventually, if you do want to get out of Florida, you are going to have, you're going to be a guy that played on a championship level team that has that experience, and you're going to be able to command your salary wherever you go.
Yeah, and I wonder if Tampa can keep up the charade that they've ran for the past few years.
Well, they can't
Like,
do it now. Unless we get news tonight that Nikita Kucherov has suffered an injury that's going to keep him out 2 weeks, and they put him on 4 weeks, and they put him on long-term IR. They just have no room right now, and maybe they can go that way again. I also think that the league has kind of stepped in and said, "Hey guys, you keep doing this, we're gonna have to rein that in, at least within the next collective bargaining agreement."
well, and I don't think the Tampa's as good as they performed, which sounds weird, but I wonder if whenever you get into the mentality of the players, um, Florida was one of the least affected states by COVID restrictions
Yep.
by far, if not
Yep.
the least. I'd say between Florida and Texas. Um, the mentality, the morale in Tampa was probably substantially higher than the rest of the league at the time. So, I mean, if everybody else got knocked down by half, as far as their willingness to perform in this environment goes, now the world's opening back up and everybody's kind of starting to get back on the level playing field. Tampa's definitely a threat. Do I think that Tampa's as good as Tampa's been? Probably not. I just think that everybody else was worse than they are.
They had that really effective fourth line in the playoffs last year, and that got blown up in the offseason. So we'll see. Maybe Tampa tries to reconnect something over the trade deadline, but yeah, I think Tampa's pretty much done. I mean, there may be some sneaky hockey trades in there, that they move a veteran piece for an up and coming piece that has contract. I don't know. Um, it could be a situation where is that where Phil Kessel goes? If you can fit that contract in there, that would be a good place for him to fit. Um, but the other name that could get moved that I've been hearing rumors about is PK Subban.
I don't know if at this point anybody actually cares.
I don't know that he's the type of defenseman that we've got to get him. I mean, if you're looking for an offensive defenseman, perhaps, but
I still feel like his personal value
that.
is way higher than his actual on ice value.
Yeah,
because Subban doesn't have to do anything anymore. Like, he could retire tomorrow and he probably wouldn't even realize he didn't play anymore. And I think there's something about having the power to do that. He can just go be an H&M model and finish out his career like that, Subban's just one of those, like, does anybody actually want him? I'm sure somebody'd pick him up for a 1 year, $2 million, you know what I mean? But it's not, I don't think anybody's going to be sticking their neck out on a 3 or 4 year contract.
Well, I mean, he's
old. He's washed up. Yeah,
I think he's in the last year of his contract. So, I mean, he's not playing. He doesn't have to play for another contract. I do think he gets picked up next year. Somebody will want some kind of offensive defenseman, maybe a second power play unit quarterback.
I could see him going to Dallas or LA. LA's kind of up and coming, and they probably could use a good veteran presence, especially defense wise. But as far as PK Subban being a priority, there's so many other guys that are going to fall in line first that people would chase down. Subban at best is a consolation prize.
Yeah. But for the playoffs, I mean, that's the thing. Who, Toronto, maybe?
No.
I mean, the problem is the offensive side of the game is not where they're lacking. It's defensive side, and PK's not that guy. I don't know. I don't know where you put him. If New Jersey's able to move him for anything, that'll be
Nashville.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, he also has kind of the reputation of not being the most pleasant person in the locker room, and that he'll probably already burnt that bridge in Nashville.
You know who really needs PK Subban?
Buffalo.
Montreal.
Oh God.
Subban
Yeah,
back to Montreal. How would that go over? Eh?
yeah. Although I would say that the great thing about PK Subban is his charitable work, and I'm sure that the people of Montreal will love him. It's the teammates that might have an issue, but hey,
He did great things when he was there. I don't think anybody's denying that, but that's also been, there are children that are going into school right now that have been alive a shorter amount of time than the last time the PK Subban were read.
Yep.
So, I feel like Montreal's going to be grasping at straws for anything that resembles a veteran presence. It's a possibility, but they don't really have a lot to offer other than picking up the contract because he's just not going to stay in Jersey. So,
yeah. Two interesting contract signings this week. Earlier this week, Stars Inc. Joe Pavelski to a 1-year extension, $5.5 million to remain in Big D. That was an interesting contract. I mean, it almost seems it's. I think he knows that he's getting closer to the end of his career, and he wants that flexibility after next year.
yeah, I'm surprised he re-signed. I figured that it would be the end of Pavelski.
Yeah,
This feels more like a favor to Dallas than it does anything else.
yeah. The other, this one is more curious to me was the re-signing of Thomas Hurdle in San Jose. He got an 8-year, $65.1 million contract. This guy, look, phenomenally talented. Uh, would have gotten that on the free market in the off season. He's now committed himself to 8 years in San Jose on a team that I just, at least for the next 4 seasons, I don't think are going to be all that much better than what they are now.
Yeah, and there's so many up and coming competitors in the West, just as far as actual potential for them to go anywhere in the conference. Everybody in the Western Conference is either getting ready to plateau at a decent peak for the next 2 or 3 years, or within the next 2 or 3 years will be coming into their prime.
Yeah.
The one that I always go back to is LA, except for Seattle. Seattle just sucks. I wonder if San Jose has a hope at all to do anything with him. I think that it's more just a jersey selling point than anything.
I mean,
Kind of like
remember,
Arizona and Clayton Keller.
they've got uh, $11 million tied up in Eric Carlson. They've got 10 something tied up in Brent Burns. Um, this is a team that does not spend wisely.
Yeah, it's
And
Minnesota except on the coast. Like,
yeah, and they don't have a Kirill Kaprizov now.
right.
So, um, what helped them to give him this money is the fact that they were able to get out from underneath the Evander Kane contract. They were able to write that off and not have it count as a cap number on their cap.
I wonder if they actually
It
paid
doesn't
him
do
or
them
if
any
they
good.
just sent it straight to the loan department.
But no, they were
You get
able
to
to
touch the money first and get a picture.
no, they were able to void the contract. They didn't have to give him a damn dime. So I mean, and that actually helps him in his case for bankruptcy because it says that that whole money that he was supposed to have, he's not going to get anymore. So it does kind of make his case for him. Let's see. Alex Ovechkin now is number 3 all time in goal scoring, past our boy Yager. Yeah. Past our boy Yager with 767 goals. He's 34 behind Gordie Howe and 127 behind Gretzky. Still projected at a 50 goals pace this year, so he could be about halfway to Gordie.
He's gonna pass Gretzky.
Yeah, I mean, if he
It's
all he has to do is 2 more seasons, maybe a little bit more. But I mean, let's say conservatively, it's 3 more seasons. He gets to Gretzky before his 40th birthday,
yeah.
and let's not forget that Alex Ovechkin lost his 18-year-old year because of the lockout in 2004. He was drafted that year. He would have been starting in Washington that season. He had to wait a year and started with Sid, and that's part of the reason why they were always tied together. Um, you know, and then he lost, several games in 2019, 2020, and then 2021, 2022. He lost several games there. Um, so I mean, we're talking kind of on the same level as Gretzky. Gretzky got his 894, and they count his WHA goals in that number. Um, he got it. He retired at 38. So I mean, it's kind of along the same timelines. Uh, so here's the question: who do you think is the better goal scorer, Gretzky
I
or
hate to say this. It genuinely pains me. Um, Gretzky will undeniably be one of the greatest of all time. Probably always stay the greatest of all time just because
Yeah.
of points accumulated. But Ovechkin is a better goal scorer. And, people always will make the joke about him standing in his office and he can only score from one spot. He doesn't skate, he doesn't move. And that works for him.
or he
And
scores empty net goals, and it's like he scores every goal.
Gretzky scored like how many empty net goals?
No, I'm talking about Ovechkin. That was one of the complaints about Ovechkin is he
Yeah,
scored.
but so did Gretzky. I mean,
Yeah,
there was, or he would pass it off to somebody else and just take an assist on it.
and
But
here's why I say that Ovechkin is clearly the better goal scorer.
the
Now, I will
goals are
say,
so much better.
yeah, I will say that Gretzky, yes, is the better hockey player. Ovechkin won't even get halfway to his point total. But Gretzky, or I'm sorry, yeah, Gretzky scored the majority of his goals. I mean, he had over 500 goals by the mid 80s.
Yeah, with
And
stand-up goaltenders. I mean,
yeah, I mean, look at the quality goaltenders. Again, think about expansion. He had quite a few in the WHA, like 100, at least 100 in the WHA. And then he abused the expansion goaltenders, especially in Winnipeg. When Winnipeg moved into the NHL, they got ravaged by the entry. Uh, all the players that helped Winnipeg be kind of this power team in the WHA got plucked off the team as they moved into the NHL, and um, uh, so he was able to take advantage of Winnipeg. He was able to take advantage of expansion teams that came in the 80s, and up until early 90s when he moved to LA. Alex, I mean, he's had some expansion teams during his time. I mean, well, no, he's only had Vegas and Seattle during his time in
yeah,
the
everybody else has
NHL.
just been a relocation.
Yeah, it's relocation, same team. So, yeah, I mean, he's the quality of goaltenders, the quality of defense that he's done it, and it's the consistency. Like, Wayne Gretzky was here, and then from about 91 on, he just dropped.
Yeah, I mean,
And he was like,
Gretzky's last season, he scored 9 goals.
yeah. I mean, he had a couple seasons where he was scoring like 20, 25 goals.
Well, and he even looked back on it and he said, I look back on my last season that I played and I scored 9 goals, and that used to be a good weekend for me.
Yeah.
So I decided it was time to hang it up, and he did. He didn't even hesitate. He just out. I'm done.
Yeah. Well,
So
and that's a reflection because that's when the trap started getting into the games.
yeah,
You
I
had
mean,
phenomenal goaltenders like Hasek and Waugh and uh, 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 what's Brodeur coming into the game, and
I don't think Brodeur was a good goaltender.
well, he had a great defensive system with him. So
I think Brodeur was a well protected goaltender.
he was a well protected goaltender. Um, yeah,
hard to put that guy in the same league as like Cujo and Eddie Belfour and Marty Turco and
you
not
just
to
had
mention
longevity.
Hasek and those guys. It's just
Yeah. Speaking of Hasek, he came out, and this is a couple weeks ago. Came out and said that the NHL should ban Russian players, and specifically targeted Alexander Ovechkin for criticism because Ovechkin's been a noted Putin supporter over the Ukrainian crisis, the Invasion of Ukraine. I don't know. I mean, I even though Ovechkin is a supporter of Putin and Putin's a dickbag, I just don't see blaming the NHL players on what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah, and as someone who has a lot invested in the situation in Ukraine, a lot,
Yeah.
like a lot, um, I don't think that you should be forced to be held accountable for your bad political leanings, because in literally any other line of work, if I walk into my regular job, not my business, not my other business, not my contracting job, but I work at a pet store 1 day a week. If I walk in and I go, hey, I'm a Marxist now. Karl Marx is God. The American government is messed up. Everything sucks. This is terrible. And I get fired for it.
Yeah.
I absolutely have a lawsuit. Like, lawyers will be salivating, taking big pay cuts because they know that they're going to stick this corporation for, millions and millions of dollars. I don't know why professional sports would be different. I feel like, if anything, the guy should, if he came out right now and he's like, hey, I support Putin. I support what's going on in Ukraine. I think this is a best case scenario for Russia. Am I personally going to like him for that? No,
Yeah.
I'm going to hate the guy. And I'm going to do anything possible to make sure that it's known that I hate the guy.
Yeah.
Do I feel like he should be held accountable for his political leanings in his place of business where he is employed? No. Does that make him a bad person? Absolutely. Does it make me like him less as a person than anybody else that might be in the same boat? Probably, because he's more publicized.
Yeah.
But to pin that on somebody, and he hasn't even spoken out since this thing started, man. He
said he wanted
the
peace.
only statement that we got out of Alex Ovechkin was war is bad.
Yeah.
Which, if anything, is probably the most anti-Putin thing he could say without getting a picture of his family if their head's on pikes.
Yeah.
So, do I think it's a dramatic overreaction? Yeah, I do. The guy didn't do anything wrong by being a Russian civilian.
Yeah. And trying to lump all the Russian players, like, I love Hasek, but trying to lump all the Russian players in the league. You're also saying that the bread man Panarin should be kicked out.
Yeah,
Panarin's a
who's been
noted,
personally victimized by Putin.
yeah, is a noted Putin critic. I wouldn't be kicking him out of the league for any reason.
Yeah,
I just think it's just dumb, a dumb overreaction. It's to me, it's kind of like, you're hearing these places like there's an Italian university that pulled Dostoevsky's books off of their syllabus because he's a Russian writer. Well, you should really study Dostoevsky if you think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, those are the guys that
Banning
you should
Russian
be paying
dressing,
attention to.
yeah, banning Russian dressing and things like that, or beef stroganoff. I've heard people restaurants are pulling beef stroganoff off of their
Dude, one of the saddest things that I saw, I'm a USSR historian. I have family ties to the USSR, and in a bad way. Just to clarify, they did a lot of bad things for us. But Stoli vodka, people going after Stoli. Do you know the story behind Stoli?
I don't know the story behind Stoli. I know that's not even made in Russia anymore, right?
The man that started Stoli vodka escaped the USSR barely, had family members killed because he escaped Russia.
Wow.
And then started the company and has funded anti-Russia writings, and anything that he can do is publicly, the new owner, one of his descendants, frequently speaks out against Russia in any form that he can. Stoli is probably more anti-Russia than me, which is really saying something, because I collect Soviet Union stuff as a big middle finger to the Soviet Union. Like, hey, look, I got a war prize. You lost, we won. But
let's go for it, bitch.
Yeah. But it's just amazing to me that so many people would just blindly follow this stuff. look, if you're going to start persecuting people strictly based off their nationality, you are no better than a Nazi.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's what the Nazis did to the Polish. That's what the USSR did to the Polish in 1933.
That's what we did to the Japanese.
Yeah. I mean, you are a trash human being if you believe that Russian civilians deserve to pay the consequences of their government in anything other than sanctions. And the sanctions really are just to cause uprisings in Russia and force the people to look the situation in the eye. But if you're going to take people that have nothing to do with Russia except for a last name associated with, or the fact that they were born there, and persecute them because of a situation that they in no way had anything to do with, let me know so I know to avoid you and never listen to anything you say in a serious manner. You could tell me my house is on fire and I'd still have to go check before I call 911.
Exactly. Let's see. Speaking of Toronto, Buffalo beat Toronto in the Heritage Classic. First time an American team has played in the Heritage Classic, probably the last time, because they don't like it when we beat them at their game in their home country. Not like they're going to be playing for the Stanley Cup anyway. But let's see. Peter Mrazek got lit up again. We talked about that. Their goaltending issues. The young goaltender Eric Shelgren, is still pitching a shutout in Carolina, or it's in Toronto against Carolina.
And he just made a really, really, really good stop.
Yeah, this guy is.
That was a great rebound recovery.
So in the game, Austin Matthews, despite scoring a goal, let his frustration show towards the end of the game. He got into a tussle with Rasmus Dahlin, fight between two former first overall picks. Austin Matthews threw a cross check that hit Dahlin right in the neck. And for that, he received a 2-game ban. People were like, oh no, he was aiming for a shoulder. Well, his aim sucks.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you wanted; it matters what you got.
Yeah, I mean, like you got to control your stick. Like it's same as a high sticking type deal. You got to control your stick, and if you missed and hit him in the neck, you're gonna have to pay the consequences. So he gets 2 games. I actually think this is a good thing for Toronto. It seems for me, Toronto looks like a team that just is waiting for Austin Matthews to carry them. And at least over the last month. And yeah, he's got 45 goals on the season, but let them figure it out for a couple of games. Like you got to do it without this guy. Figure it out. This Shelgren kid is, if he manages to beat Carolina tonight, hell, if he gets a shutout tonight, they're gonna have a parade for him in Toronto to just for that.
Yeah, and he's the 4th goaltender in Toronto's history, which is a long history, to ever pitch a shutout on his first game.
Yeah, and first Swedish-born goaltender to do it in NHL history. And you think about the quality Swedish goaltenders we've had in the NHL to do that is pretty impressive. Did they just score? Yeah, Mitch Marner just scored 2-0.
Wow, Marner showed up.
Well, he's got to. He's like the only, That was a pretty sweet goal. I mean, Anderson should have had it. Oh, this is a revenge game, too. This is the first time with fans in the building that Freddie Anderson's been back in Toronto to play. So, not going well for him so far. 2 goals on 8 shots. A 750 save percentage. That's no bueno. So yeah, Shelgren's come in. He's had 2 decent games where he came in the Arizona game, lost it in overtime on that where Jacob Chickern held Austin Matthews' stick, and then he went in and scored the game-winning goal in overtime, and then pitched the shutout in Dallas, and he's now up 2-0 against Carolina. This legend is going to continue to grow. I think Mrazek may have played his last game in Toronto.
Maybe that'll be the the answer to some of these deadline woes for a few other teams that are looking to take a chance on a goaltender.
Yeah.
I could see Toronto trying to get out of that ASAP. As long as this kid doesn't turn into, the next Jack Campbell.
Yeah.
The wishy-washy, whenever he's hot, he's on fire, whenever he's not, he's Swiss cheese.
That's the thing.
I think that's a chance worth taking, though, to deal Mrazek to somebody that needs a goaltender. Mrazek to Colorado could really do some good stuff for Toronto right now.
For Toronto. I don't think it does a thing for Colorado at all. That's kind of like when last year when Buffalo dealt Jonas Johansson to him.
I think that this is kind of one of those, how bad do you want it? Are you willing to take a chance on a potential goaltender for the playoff run? Because, your forwards, your defensemen, they're not going to get any younger.
Although, Mrazek did really well in Carolina, and
Mrazek was phenomenal in Carolina. And I just wonder if maybe
Toronto has crap defense. If you go to Colorado, you got a phenomenal defense in front of you. I just don't know that can they fit Mrazek's guy, because I think Mrazek has got a couple of years on his contract, right?
Yeah.
I don't. They won't get
maybe.
Yeah, they won't get the benefit of like a guy on an expiring contract. They can prorate it for this season, and they may be able to do that. I'm not sure what the CBA says, but they're going to have to figure out something with the contract wise going into the off season.
Yeah.
I do have to say it was so nice watching Buffalo beat Toronto again. It was I will never, like, Buffalo could go 4-78 in a season, and the 4 wins are against Toronto. I'm okay with that. Like, I hate Toronto that much. It might be time to get your boy Paul Bissonnette, though. Paul Bissonnette is Bissonnasty. He's wearing his Leafs underoos right now. He's drinking the kill. He says he thinks that Shelgren is Jordan Binnington 2.0 after a game and a period and a half.
No. Gotta stop that.
Yeah. Well,
but one of the appeals of Bissonnette is the fact that sometimes he just takes absolutely terrible hot takes that never turn into anything. And I think he's fun and he's stupid, and that's what we love about him.
He's kind of like the Terry Bradshaw of the NHL broadcast.
He's kind of like the Don Cherry of the new NHL.
Yeah.
He's a little bit less racist, still a little racist, but a little bit less, more palatable. He's kind of fun to look at. He looks like a caveman.
Yeah.
So, he's going to say some dumb stuff. And I think that that's just one of the things that you get whenever you get biz nasty.
And then someone better not tell him that Jordan Binnington is barely a 500 goaltender right now.
I think that he's talking more about first season.
Yeah, first season.
Coming in and blowing it up. Nobody really cares what happens in 3 years.
Yeah. Well, St. Louis is caring because they've got, they've got a full-blown goalie controversy now in St. Louis. Binnington's lost his last 3 starts, has not looked really good this season. He's 13-12 on the season. And Ville Husso is, I think, 14-5 or something like that. Has much better numbers. Yeah, they've kind of put Husso in a better situation. They've given him some of the easier games this year, but he's performing. And St. Louis, for a playoff team and a team that's dumped a lot of money into Jordan Binnington, I'd be worried because he's got term and money that's going to come to him. And if he doesn't turn around and Ville Husso is your starter going into next season, you've got $6 million sitting on your bench. Yeah, just sitting on your bench until you can somehow maybe convince some team to take a flyer on him. But you're probably going to have to eat at least maybe 2 seasons as him backup to get anybody to remotely think that $6 million for a goaltender that just can't stop a puck.
Yeah, but right now he's a 1F goaltender, right? We got 1A, 1B, and then Binnington.
Yeah.
It's a few letters down. Yeah, it's a bad situation. I think that the value to St. Louis was the fact that he did get him a cup. There's a sentimental aspect of Binnington right now, and I think that it'll stick around for a while. But I don't know, man. It's another one of those long term deals. It's probably not going to turn out well for anybody involved, and the only guy that's really making anything out of it's the guy that's actually making something off of it. So
Yeah. All right. Who's your hot team of the week?
Carolina, I'm loving it.
Yeah, they're playing.
They're on fire.
Well, 87 points, leading the Metro. If the playoffs started tonight, they would get. Just making sure that fifth in the. So they would get the Capitals in the first round if the playoffs started tonight.
Which should be pretty easy for this Carolina team.
Unless goaltender really establishes himself in DC, I just don't see it. Or if DC is able to pull off a shocker and get somebody like Fleury out of Chicago, I just don't see Fleury waiving his no trade clause out there. Man, I got to give it to your boys, man. Arizona 7-3.
No, we don't want it. Stop.
I know you don't want it. I know you don't want it, but you got 44 points, which is like 40 points more than I thought you guys were going to get at the start of the season.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I was hoping would happen. And right now, that's 40 too many points, Dave.
It is. Well, it's only four too many points at this point. Montreal is driving
40 too many. We just need to stay down. Yeah. I don't care if I see us win another game this year. I actually would prefer that I don't.
I remember the feeling, the McEichel sweepstakes, man. In fact, it was against Arizona, man. I remember it, like that game we played against you, and we were just like basically passing you guys the puck. Like, here in the slot, score, bro.
Yeah, it's like playing air hockey for 4-year-old that can't see over the table.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Montreal's leading the tank at 40 points. Seattle is at in second with 2 games more played than Arizona and Montreal. They're at 42 points, so they've got even fewer point opportunities coming up. And I think that they're probably going to trade off a couple more pieces. So Arizona's got to get busy, man. Who's your not team this week?
Good for you, bad for them. The Golden Knights. What a spiral. I mean, dude, did they get shot in the wing?
Yeah.
What is happening here? It's insane how fast this team's going downhill. I'm not saying that I'm upset about it. I would love to see you guys end up with a nice, pretty shiny draft pick off of them, as long as it's not below ours. It's just so much potential for one team to have.
Yeah.
And capitalize 0% on. And I get it that, it's definitely a big deal that Pacioretty's out, that Stone's out, that Eichel is probably somewhere in the building at some point. That doesn't mean that you don't suck. It means that you suck with less people.
Yeah, I'm with you on this with Vegas. My feeling on Vegas is that they played fast and loose with the cap. They're trying to be too cute by half with the injury situations, particularly to Mark Stone. But they've backed themselves into a corner because they can't put Pacioretty on long-term IR. So they can't bring Stone back, even if he's, in a position where he can help the team. And so they're going to have to ride into the playoffs with, an injured Pacioretty, Eichel, who is just off of, experimental neck surgery that has healed healed quicker than expected, and probably will be the standard surgery for neck issues moving forward. But, that's a lot to put on a player that's never had playoff success.
Yeah, well, and has rarely had playoff experience, right?
No, he has no.
Or has had no playoff experience.
His last playoff experience was in the Frozen Four with Boston University. And that was 7 years ago. So
yeah, so I don't know. It was it was a great move conceptually, but in practice,
I tell you what, this is a move that can. I didn't think so at the time, but it may reverse the um, fortunes of two franchises in that Buffalo got a captain in Alex Tuck and a just a phenomenally gifted passing player in Peyton Krebs with decent goal scoring ability, but his vision on the ice is amazing. Like he's made some passes in games where I was like, whoa. Um, and then Vegas got Jack Eichel, who's a good player, but he has never had success in the league, team success in the league. They have um, they traded their first round draft pick this season. They could it could be a situation where maybe they do finish in the bottom 10 and retain it, but uh, won't be like a first overall draft pick. And then they've frozen their first round draft pick for next season, and won't be able to use that draft pick until maybe until next season to make any moves. So now they've got Stone, Pacioretty, Eichel, Leonard, all these guys on big time contracts, and that once you've played too cute by half on the contract side, moving beyond that to next season, how are you fitting those guys in? Like, Stone's there for a few more seasons, Eichel's there for 5 more seasons. That's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money to try and get off of the books or move around so you can put other pieces on the team. Because they could end up like Toronto, where they just don't have they have great scoring ability. They just don't have anything else to keep the puck out of the net. You also have Alex Petrangelo, who's getting older and making a ton of scratch as well. Um, so uh, interesting times ahead for Vegas, I think.
yeah, it's they had their shot and it didn't exactly play out for them.
That's hockey. That happens.
It's yeah. I mean, somebody has to lose, right? You only get one champion a year,
Yep.
so Vegas could go either way, man. I wouldn't be surprised to see Vegas come back next year as a top 3 team. I also wouldn't be surprised to see Vegas come back next year as a bottom 20 team. So, that's kind of the fun part about this sport. What is on top does not stay on top.
No, not at all.
But the difference between Vegas with Mark Stone and Vegas without Mark Stone is insane.
Oh yeah. He is the straw that stirs the drink there. And I think once you get Mark Stone and Jack Eichel on the line, like if Vegas can just squeak into the playoffs, they're going to make some noise.
Oh, for sure.
But if they don't make the playoffs, this is a gamble that really will cost them many years to come. But like next season if they're both on the ice together, that's a phenomenal duo. They're gonna wreck some teams, especially in that Pacific Division. I mean, yeah, you got LA coming up. Anaheim's coming up, but I think they'll still be the class of the division coming out next year. But I think 2-3 years from now, Vegas is going to look back at how they spent coming out, building that team, all the money that they threw around, and what they got for it. If they don't get a cup this season, I don't think it's going to happen for them.
Yeah, it's I think that right now, if it goes one way, Vegas just misses playoffs completely. If it goes the other way, Vegas is actually going to be a contender against Colorado.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting fight in the West.
That's where I'm at. So one side, terrible. The other side, phenomenal.
Yep.
But it's not going to be both. It can't be both. And somebody is going to get shafted here.
Yep. And then final story of the evening, we got USA winning the sled hockey championship at the Winter Paralympics. They bookended the tournament. It was a dominating performance. 5-0 was the first game that they played, which was against Canada. Then in the championship game, the gold medal game, they beat Canada again 5-0. They went through the entire tournament, 5 games, I believe, and gave up 1 goal.
Yeah.
1 goal. And I've watched sled hockey a few times, and it's a phenomenally entertaining sport. You know, the little spikes on the end of their sticks. People they talk about people get stabbed every game. It's just the thing that they have to go through. Um, the collisions are, I mean, they're like car wrecks sometimes. I mean, you can't T-bone somebody. That's against the rules, but I mean, it gets called all the time because you're sledding, going down the ice on a sled. And it's not the easiest thing to control, and yeah, it's an entertaining sport, man. I really dug watching some of the game.
Yeah, I caught a few of the highlights. I love to watch the hits.
Yeah,
Yeah, the hits. It's like,
because it sounds like a car wreck with the sleds. I mean, it sounds like a car wreck. You're like,
yeah,
damn.
and sometimes those things get mangled.
Oh yeah, yeah. They are that. Those are some tough dudes, man. Tell you
Yeah, for
what.
sure.
Anything else for you this week?
I think that wraps us up, man.
Right on, brother. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on the Thursday night
Awesome.
hockey show. Do not forget Monday night, 7 p.m. in lieu of a show next week on Thursday night. We're going to do a trade deadline review of all the trades that go down on Monday and this weekend, and talk about winners and losers and all that fun stuff. So, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will talk to you all on Monday.